timedate.com, we look up into the sky. We bring you exclusive footage from eclipses worldwide. We take our mobile observatory to where the action happens.
Hi, Stefan.
Hi, Anna. It's a real pleasure to welcome you at the Guyana Space Center, the Europe Spaceport.
We collaborate with experts and observatories across the globe to bring you the best view of celestial events. We explain how and show why it all happens while answering your questions during our live broadcast events. Find your home and even more details on our website while you wait. So join us next time on timedate.com.
And hello, everyone. Welcome here. I'm Anna Buckle. This is Graham Jones, and we're here at the timedate.com studio in Norway. And there's been some frantic working behind the scenes here today. And we're looking at a view of the sun from Kautokeino in Finnmark. That's in northern Norway. And this is the first image we have of the sun. And we've got a lot of people scrambling, driving around looking for cloud-free areas, aren't we, Graham?
Yes, that's right. Behind the scenes, it's all great excitement here. What we're looking at today is an annular solar eclipse. So the moon will pass across the disk of the sun, but the moon will be too small to cover the sun completely. So the moon will become silhouetted against the sun, and the sun will form an annulus or a ring shape around the moon. But the Earth only just gets to see this today because the moon's shadow really is just skimming across the top of the globe, across the Arctic region. So there's actually very, very few places and very, very few people who will actually get to see annularity today, or the ring of fire. Having said that, there are lots of big places that will get to see a partial eclipse. So a bit further south, New York will get a 73% partial solar eclipse. Toronto, 80% partial eclipse. London, a 20% partial eclipse. So annularity, very difficult to see today. But if the clouds hold, lots of people could get a chance to see a partial solar eclipse.
And we actually do have, what we're looking at now is actually our team up in Norway, our mobile observatory setting up in Norway. So you've got the sun there, but nothing of it. It's not even started there yet, has it, Graham?
No, so here in Kautokeino, so this is right, northern Norway. This is very close to the Finnish border up there in northern Norway. The partial eclipse will start here at 9:47 UTC. So yeah, we're still about 40 minutes away from the start of the action here. Overall today, we have pictures coming from 8 locations, and right now we've got people setting up and testing and getting ready. We've got 8 locations across 4 countries on 2 different continents. And
we have a schedule of the key times there, if we can get that up. There it is.
Yeah, okay. So these are our 8 locations for today. We've got 3 locations in the northeastern corner of time. Here is sunrise. The sun is going to be rising it's going to start rising there in around about 15-20 minutes time. We are hoping to bring telescope images from New York and in Ontario in Canada, North Bay and Sudbury. The
So
sun
we're
will be
hoping for
rising.
eclipse sun rising, right? With the devil's horn peeking up from the mountains or from the horizon there.
That's right. So worldwide, the partial phase of the eclipse started about an hour ago at 8:12 UTC. The partial phase of this eclipse began, but the only place that could see it was somewhere out in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean. But now, as the Earth is spinning and as sunrise is coming to North America, as the sun rises over the horizon, then people will be able to see. If they can get a good clear view to the sun, they would be able to see a partially eclipsed sun rising above the horizon. And in the bottom left corner of the screen there, we have a countdown to sunrise in New York. So yeah, in about 14 minutes time, as the Earth turns, the sun, the eclipsed sun, will be rising above the horizon.
So even though we're looking at the midnight sun here from Kautokeino in Norway, we're also waiting for sunrise in New York. So it's a lot to have to wrap your head around when it comes to showing from all these different locations, isn't it, Graham?
Yeah, so perhaps if we could go back to our key times slide, where we've got our 8 locations and we've got the kind of the main action in each of these locations. So they're in the northeastern corner of North America, New York, North Bay, Sudbury. The key thing we're waiting on there is sunrise, an eclipsed sunrise. Also in Canada, we have some pictures coming from Iqaluit. Now, the town of Iqaluit is one of the very few places that is on the path of annularity. It's one of the very few places that actually get to see the Ring of Fire today. We are hoping to bring some images from there. They're not going to be telescope images, but we are hoping to bring some live pictures from Iqaluit to get a little feel of what's going on there as annularity arrives. That's going to be in about an hour from now at 10:06 UTC. The moon will become silhouetted against the sun. There'll be about 3 minutes of annularity in Iqaluit. So again, we've got no telescope images from there, but we are hoping to share the excitement of what's happening in Iqaluit.
Eclipse a simple vista, y este eclipse es pequeñito, pero en otros más importantes, en España vamos a tener en muy poquito tiempo, para un astrónomo muy poquito, pues vamos a tener 3 eclipses, 2 van a ser totales en el 2026 y 2027, y en el 2028 vamos a tener una especie de total, pero que no se llama así. Se llaman anulares, como este eclipse que estamos observando. Este es un eclipse de tipo anular. Lo que ocurre es que se vería anular si nos trasladásemos a Groenlandia, regiones de Groenlandia, el Ártico, algo de Siberia, y bueno, pues sí podríamos ver lo que se denomina un eclipse anular de Sol. Esto es, que la Luna se coloca justo delante del Sol, pero no lo llega a cubrir. Y entonces veríamos un disco brillante alrededor de esa luna. Es un poquito como el eclipse que pudimos ver en España el 3 de octubre de 2005, que fue un eclipse que se observó anular, entró por Galicia y se pudo ver por las regiones de Valencia. Y bueno, en el resto de la península pues se pudo ver como un eclipse parcial, que es lo que estamos viendo hoy. Y de hecho estamos en un extremo de lo que se trata del eclipse. El eclipse crea una sombra y una zona donde se puede observar, y en realidad es una especie de sombra. Hay una zona que es más oscura. En el caso de un eclipse total se llama umbra, y la penumbra quedaría alrededor. Y nosotros estamos casi en el límite de la penumbra. Entonces podemos ver desde Coín, Málaga, el eclipse como parcial, pero no va a ser un eclipse demasiado potente. Pero bueno, también nos va a ayudar a en el futuro tener más práctica con todos estos equipos. Bueno, pues mirar, ya digo que mi idea era utilizar cámara color y blanco y negro. Y ahora mismo estamos utilizando una cámara blanco y negro. Y el telescopio lo que lleva un filtro, que es un filtro que es capaz de quitarle al sol, pues deja pasar solamente unas 300 milésimas partes de la luz del sol. Fijaros, es curioso porque la buena parte de la astronomía es nocturna. Y la verdad es que solemos pasar más tiempo de noche que de día despierto. Y fijaros, todas las estrellas que observamos de noche son estrellas que están muy lejos. Y bueno, están tan lejos, que dentro de todas las que están más cerquitas, pues la podemos ver como puntitos. Ya cuando está muy lejos ya no la vemos, ¿no? Nos haría falta ya telescopios para observar. Pero las estrellas que están más cerca, sí es verdad de que la vemos como puntitos, porque aunque sean muy grandes, están tan lejos que la vemos como puntitos. Yo muchas veces lo pongo como ejemplo cuando estoy, como esta imagen, esta sesión también es para muchos colegios, especialmente de la provincia de Málaga, que se han apuntado. Claro cómo se está desarrollando, cómo entra la luna, cada vez está comiendo algo más del sol. Sobre la I-35 será el máximo y a partir de ahí ya. Entonces, como os comentaba, pues no sé lo que comentaba. Estamos viendo ahora el sol en el directo. Ahora me vendrá a la cabeza, es que voy soltando según y tengo que ir mirando los equipos. Bueno, pues entonces estamos viendo el sol en blanco y negro. Y bueno, ¿y por qué blanco y negro? Porque en realidad, veréis, os decía que las cámaras color, cuando estuvimos haciendo la prueba, la verdad es que la imagen era bastante mala, era bastante deficiente. ¿Por qué? Porque las cámaras color, en realidad, lo que tenemos como píxel son sensibles a la luz, y en las cámaras color, digamos que una imagen, un punto de color se consigue a través de 4 píxeles, cada uno destinado a un color determinado, según el patrón que se llama de valle, ¿no? Uno es rojo, dos son sensibles al verde, uno al rojo y otro al azul. Claro, el problema de los filtros, eso os decía, el problema de los filtros es que siempre va a darle un tono de color. Y claro, eso significa que más que va a funcionar uno o dos de los filtros de los píxeles que son sensibles a los colores. El otro prácticamente no funcionaría, ¿no? Con los filtros que vamos a usar hoy vamos a ver el sol en rojo, negro, azul, negro, verde, negro, amarillo, negro. Voy a mover un momentito esto para centrarlo. Ahí. ¿Y qué ocurre? Porque la cámara, el color, además no tiene un gran rango dinámico, y entonces lo mejor siempre son las cámaras blanco y negro. En el fondo la imagen con un filtro siempre es monocromática. Te digo, rojo, negro, azul, negro, verde, negro, amarillo, negro. Claro, pues nosotros lo que vamos a interpretar el negro como negro, pero el color lo vamos a interpretar como blanco. Y esas cámaras van a tener mayor rango dinámico, es decir, vamos a tener más diferente capacidad de tonos y además mucha más calidad y más resolución. Entonces merece la pena hacerlo en blanco y negro, aunque luego habéis visto que he mandado algunas fotos, que luego la pondré para terminar, fotos de este tercer edición de talleres. Algunas fotos ya tratadas de los vídeos, ya con los colores que tendría con los filtros. Bueno, pues os decía que este filtro, donde me haya quedado cortado, este filtro lo que hace es quitar 300 milésimas partes de la luz y el resto lo reenvía. Y es que las estrellas, de todas, están tan lejos que ya digo, la vemos como puntitos, ¿no? El Sol es la única estrella que está cerca. Y fijaros, si para los demás objetos del cielo profundo necesitamos telescopios muy grandes que sean capaces de recolectar mucha luz, con los telescopios dedicados al Sol, lo que hay que quitar es luz, es que no sobra luz. El Sol está muy cerca. Es un número muy fácil de recordar. Es una aproximación, pero una aproximación tan cercana a la distancia real Sol que la precisión es altísima. Son 150 millones de kilómetros. Nos quedamos con ese dato. 150 millones de kilómetros. Y si me permitís, voy a cambiar la cámara de telescopio, ¿de acuerdo? Entonces vaya a haber una transición oscura. Voy a dejar de hablar un momentito y me voy a la otra cámara. Un segundito.
Don't go anywhere, as you say, Anna.
Yeah, and on our blog or on our live news stream, you can read about all our different partners, streaming partners. You can read about our mobile observatory, and we'll be putting loads of stuff out there about what's happening during the eclipse. And we'll take a little break looking at images from this sunrise in North Bay, and hopefully we'll get some awesome telescopes images coming in soon. But don't go away. We're still in for another 3.5 hours of eclipse fun. So see you soon. And we're still looking at beautiful images from North Bay in Canada. The sunrise should be happening just about now, I'd say, isn't it, Graham? Like it's a difficult. There's some clouds, so we can't really see, but it's getting lighter, isn't it?
That's right. So the partial eclipse is well underway in this area. We are now just simply waiting for the sun to rise above the horizon so we can see it. The sunrise in North Bay is really round about now. So we are just waiting for it to clear the horizon. And it also looks like there is a little cloud layer across the bottom as well there. So we've just got to wait for it to climb above that. But hopefully we should be able to see it. There's that little break between the clouds there where it should be appearing.
And we're waiting for something really good. Yeah, we're waiting for something really good. So it's worth the wait, I think, to see a partially eclipsed sunrise is quite a rare sight.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So it should look great. Of course, Anna, there is one important thing we need to talk about before we go any further.
Yeah, I have something very important here. There is something
there you go. Right.
that we need to talk about safety when it comes to looking at the sun in general. Actually, we should never look at the sun. So we do have some fancy graphics about how you can be safe looking at an eclipse. So we call this a do. We've shortened this into a do, make, don't. So do make sure that you've got filters, eclipse glasses, filters on your telescope, on your binoculars. Do not look directly at the sun. But you can actually make something, can't you, Graham? You can make something called a pinhole projector. And you can project.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's right. Simply, anything with a hole really can be used as a very good projector. You can make things from bits of card or with a cardboard box, but literally, anything you have that has a hole, and there's all kinds of things in your kitchen. You mentioned a colander, Anna, and well, I just happen to have here a colander with some holes in. That's an old favorite for projecting images of the crescent sun onto a surface. So you're
actually then just you're looking towards the ground. You can have it just on a flat surface, light surface, and you can actually see little crescents form through any of those holes. So it's quite a fascinating, and even just standing under a tree, you can see the little crescent shapes of the shadows. And then finally, we do have to say what you don't do when you look at the sun. You don't use sunglasses. They do not work well enough. Do not look at the sun through your camera, to your telescope, through your binoculars without a filter. You can actually cause serious damage to your eye. You can go blind. It sounds very dramatic, and it is, because we don't have any pain receptors at the back of our eyes. So you don't know if the damage is done until it's already happened, right, Graham?
Exactly. The main message is don't take any risks. If you're not sure about your eclipse glasses, if you think they might be scratched, if you're using a telescope but you haven't had experience at using a proper specialist solar filter, don't take any risks. If you're not sure what you're doing, it's just not worth it. It is extremely dangerous. Yes, be serious about eye safety.
And so look down, look around, look at the people's reactions. Make sure that you can project things through Graham's demonstrated colanders and what do you call that thing with the spoon? There's a slotted spoon. Is that what we call it? For anything with holes in it.
Almost anything with holes in it. Yes.
What? But smallish, right?
One of the great things is it's fun to experiment with different sized holes and different distances between the surface that you are projecting the image on. It's a balance between how sharp your projected image is and how big the projected image is. So it's actually very good fun to experiment and play about with that.
And this you were mentioning earlier, this is a ring of fire eclipse. This is an annular eclipse. And so the moon actually never really covers the sun completely, does it, Graham?
That's right. Because this is an annular eclipse, the moon is too far away. It's too small to completely cover the sun. So there is no totality today. At no point is the sun completely covered. And that just reinforces the message about eye safety, because there's no part of this eclipse that you can look at with the naked eye today, because even when 90% of the sun is covered during annularity, that remaining ring of light is still more than bright enough to cause serious permanent damage to your eyes. So yeah, it's a very
especially if you're looking at
message.
And especially if you're looking at a partial eclipse, then it's almost like you actually need the equipment to see. You can't look up at the sun to see the moon covering the sun anyway. So be safe.
Right.
Be careful.
Anna, we've got some. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Be careful. And Anna, I noticed we've got some images coming in from Sudbury as well. So Sudbury and North Bay, they're both cities in northern Ontario. They're about 120 kilometers apart. The sun has risen there. We are now just waiting for it to climb into view above the horizon and above the clouds. We can see that there are some layers of clouds there in Sudbury as well. So we're all still just eagerly awaiting our first glimpse of the crescent sun today. Right now in Sudbury, was it 9:32? So right now in Sudbury, 85% of the sun is covered up by the moon, and in North Bay it's just a fraction less, 84%. But I think I think the sun is about to make an appearance in North Bay.
So like I said last time, it's all still to come. We've got lots of information on our live stream news feed. Go in and have a look at timeanddate.live, and really don't go away. There's lots and lots of stuff happening for the next 3 hours. So we'll see you soon. I'm just going to say, wow. That was really awesome. I'm grinning from ear to ear. We really got those devil's horns coming up, didn't we, Graham?
It did. So, wow, a partial eclipse sunrise in Ontario, and I mean, it literally did look like the devil rising up over the horizon. There, that was quite something.
And just gorgeous images coming from Ontario there, from Sudbury and North Bay. So yes, you guys did it. You did it. I'm super excited. It just and I'm sure they're cheering in Ontario right now, managing to beat both the clouds and technical issues and everything, and getting us these amazing images of the partial eclipse.
Absolutely. And the eclipse is starting to, the eclipse of course is actually sort of starting to go towards its end there, because the sun has only just come up, but the sun was rising at around about maximum eclipse at those locations. So as we're looking at it now, we can actually slowly see the moon is now actually moving off the sun's disk. We have passed the maximum partial eclipse in North Bay and in Sudbury. So yeah, even as we watch these pictures, we can see the crescent of the sun getting bigger and bigger as the moon starts to move off the face of the sun.
But certainly an interesting view to look at, isn't it, Graham?
It is, yes. So the partial eclipse is now starting to wind down in northeastern North America. But as far as the annular eclipse goes, because there is this very narrow path of annularity that is running from Canada across Greenland and into Siberia, and from locations on this very narrow path, people will be able to see the moon be not just forming these devil's horns, but actually becoming perfectly silhouetted and turning the sun into a ring or an annulus shape. Literally only a few thousand people get to see this ring of fire today, because there's just so few places scattered across the Arctic that are on the path of annularity. And of course, it's very difficult to travel there at the moment because of the COVID travel restrictions. We have been very fortunate, Anna, to actually collaborate with Tony Rose, who is a long-time Arctic resident, and he's based in Iqaluit, which is one of these very lucky places that gets to see annularity today. Now, we don't have telescope images, plus we're afraid to say that the weather is not great in Iqaluit, and in fact, wow, yeah, okay, here is the picture from Iqaluit. We are about 10 minutes away from annularity, so yeah, we have about 75% of the sun somewhere behind those clouds. 75% is eclipsed by the moon, and in about 10 minutes the moon will be going across the very center of the sun. It will not quite be big enough to block the sun completely, so it will leave this ring of fire around the edge. But we're saying all this, it's all actually fairly academic at the moment, Anna, because it's all taking place behind that pretty thick looking layer of clouds in Iqaluit.
And will they notice any kind of difference? I know during a total solar eclipse when we were in Argentina, it went really dark and it was quite dramatic. But there's quite a bit of the sun left in full view, isn't it, Graham?
That's right. So, I mean, even totality during a total solar eclipse, it doesn't go completely dark. In an annular eclipse, you can still have 10% of the sun's disk is still uncovered around the edge of the moon, and that's enough light to make things very bright. Generally, the sky starts to darken during an eclipse around about the the 60-70% partial eclipse mark, that's when you can notice the sky starts to darken. But the really noticeable drop in light levels on the ground, that doesn't really happen until you pass 80% partial. So in Iqaluit, may notice a slight darkening around annularity. But I mean, of course, with all these clouds, it's pretty dark anyway there. So yes, a slight darkening perhaps in Iqaluit around annularity, which is about 8 minutes away.
And what is an annular solar eclipse? At the moment, we're looking at a partial eclipse, and we really want to see annularity in Iqaluit, but I think we're going to be unlucky there. But what actually happens during an annular solar eclipse, and this annular solar eclipse?
Yeah, so as we look, we can see very clearly the moon's disk on these images from Sudbury, and you can, well, it's difficult to tell, but the moon's disk, the black disk here, is just a little bit smaller than the sun's disk. There is this very amazing coincidence, Anna, that the moon is about 400 times smaller than the sun, but it's also about 400 times further away. 400 times closer than the sun. And that means that when we see the moon and the sun in the sky, they do look almost exactly the same size. The thing is that we say the moon is about 400 times closer. It changes a bit. Sometimes the moon is a bit closer to Earth. Sometimes the moon is a bit further away from Earth. Today, the moon is a bit further away, so it's looking a bit smaller than at other times, and it's not quite able to cover up all of the sun's disk.
And this eclipse itself is also quite special, isn't it? Because we've talked a little bit about the path of annularity. It's a very narrow area, just skimming the top of the globe. So we actually do have a really cool graphic where we can show a little bit of what it actually looks like, the shadow from the moon at the moment, and where you have to be to actually see annularity.
Right. So this graphic in the top right-hand corner, this is our very rough guide to what is happening today. So this is looking at the Earth and the moon in space. The sun is somewhere way off to the left, and none of this is to scale, but we've got the Earth and the moon, and we're looking down on them. So we're looking down on the North Pole of the Earth, and we're looking down on the North Pole of the moon. We can see that the North Pole of the Earth in this diagram is slightly tilted towards the sun on the left. That's because we're coming up to the June solstice. So the North Pole is tilted towards the sun at the moment. And we can also see that there are two different shadows striking the Earth. We can see those lines coming off the moon and striking the Earth. Now, these lines, these are not rays of light. These are shadows. It's kind of helpful to think about them as lines of sight. So we have that big outer fainter shadow striking the Arctic region. That's the moon's light penumbral shadow. And if you're standing anywhere there, like in Sudbury, for example, your line of sight to the sun is partially blocked by the moon. So you're seeing this partial eclipse. If you are in that very small inner shadow, we can see there's that very small inner cone sort of hitting the North Pole. Now that is the moon's antumbra. And your line of sight to the sun then, the moon is exactly lined up in the center of the sun, just leaving this ring shape around it. The one other shadow we can see on this is that dark shadow immediately to the right of the moon. That's the very darkest part of the moon's shadow. That's the umbra. If you're standing in the umbra, the moon is completely blocking all of the light from the sun, and you get a total solar eclipse. But what this diagram is showing is that the moon's not quite close enough for that dark umbral shadow to strike the Earth. So across the Arctic region, it is that very small ant-umbral shadow that is striking the globe.
And it's striking the globe on the top. And that's because we had a very special eclipse just 2 weeks ago. And for our very loyal viewers, they might have been watching us for 2 weeks ago when we were streaming a total lunar eclipse. And because are we in the middle or the end of an eclipse season right now, Graham?
Well, we're coming up towards the end of an eclipse season. So yeah, eclipses always come in pairs. You have a lunar eclipse at full moon, and then you have a solar eclipse at new moon, when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun. Now, normally, if you have a perfect alignment for one of these eclipses, then either 2 weeks before or after, for the other eclipse, the alignment is normally a little bit imperfect. So you tend to have a perfect annular solar eclipse or a perfect total solar eclipse. You tend to have that accompanied by a partial or penumbral lunar eclipse. The interesting thing about this eclipse season that we're in now is that we have had 2 perfect eclipses. We had a total lunar eclipse 2 weeks ago, and we have a perfect annular eclipse today. So we have this perfect alignment twice in 2 weeks. But in order for that alignment to work twice in a fortnight, it's only just good enough. So the lunar eclipse we had 2 weeks ago, the alignment had only just started to become perfect. So we had a very, very short total lunar eclipse. Totality was just 14 minutes 2 weeks ago, which is very quick for a lunar eclipse. Today, we have this perfect alignment, but only just. As we look at the Earth and the moon on our screen, it looks like they are aligned perfectly, but in fact, not quite perfect. The moon is not quite level with the Earth. The moon's shadow is not striking the equator. You have to imagine that the moon is just slightly this side of your screen. It's just slightly above the screen. So its shadow is not striking the center of the Earth and the equator. It is just clipping the very top of the Earth across the Arctic region. So that's why this annular eclipse is being seen by so few people. It's because 2 weeks ago we had a perfect total lunar eclipse, and to have that perfect alignment again, only just possible 2 weeks later. So the ant-umbral shadow there is only just catching the very top of the northern hemisphere.
And that makes us even luckier to have all these wonderful partners helping us out all across the globe. It's very exciting to have all these people helping us bring you these beautiful images. And we've got still a lovely image going here from Sudbury in Canada, with the clouds kind of slowly passing across this crescent sun that you could almost confuse it with the moon at the moment. So it's super fascinating to have a look at. And please don't go away. You can go and check out our blog.
Anna, we should just say that 10:06, that it is now annularity in Iqaluit. We know that they've got the clouds there. I don't know if we're able to just have another quick look at Iqaluit. Just because annularity is happening there now. Unfortunately, no one's going to be able to see it behind those thick clouds. But
no, I'm hearing we can't get this eclipse coming up the annularity coming up. So
right.
we'll just have to know that it's happening.
Right, absolutely, yes.
But if you want to read a little bit more about Iqaluit, you can go into our live news stream. It's timeanddate.live, and you can go in there and you can read more about what an annular solar eclipse is. You can read more about eclipse seasons, and you can read more about our streaming partners. And we will see you very soon, so don't go away. And there's a beautiful image there coming in from Oslo in Norway. So we still have a lot to come. See you soon. and we're back. We're looking at the moon quite quickly moving away from the sun there in Sudbury, Canada. The moon's just taking a little bite out of the sun at this point, and the partial eclipse is winding down in North America, but not completely grey.
No, so at our location right here in Sudbury, we can see that this event is almost at an end. This eclipse in Sudbury will be finishing at 10:43 UTC. So that's in about 15 minutes. The moon will have completely left the face of the sun. However, in other parts of North America, the event is still building towards its climax. We have some pictures from the very north of Canada, north of the Arctic Circle, from Inuvik in the Northwestern Territories of Canada. And yeah, we're looking at a beautiful wide angle image there. This is in the land of the midnight sun. After today's big partial solar eclipse, the sun won't actually set here in Inuvik until July the 19th.
Wow.
So they will have the sun with them for a few weeks yet. Here in Inuvik, the maximum eclipse will be 77%, so about 3/4 of the sun will be covered, and that will be at 10:42 UTC. So here we are, we're about 10 minutes away from eclipse maximum. So the partial eclipse is ending in northeastern North America, right up in the far north, where we're very close to the eclipse maximum, and things are still building up in Europe. So yeah, we have our picture in the top right hand corner there from near Oslo in Norway, and the maximum there will be coming up in around about 10 minutes to maximum eclipse in Oslo. So things are still in the first half of the eclipse in Northern Europe.
Yeah, we can mention that we had to choose Oslo. Our timeanddate.com team was rushing around trying to find a spot, and they found some friendly people to help them set up, and they're in a place called Oppaker, which is an hour outside Oslo, but for all intents and purposes, for the worldwide audience, it's Oslo. But for us Norwegians, we like to be a bit more specific. So thank you to you guys there in Oppaker. But there's other special things about this eclipse. We were talking a little bit about the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, and that they come in pairs, but there's also something that was happening with the moon then. We've been talking a little bit about the moon being far from Earth, and that's why we have this annular solar eclipse, but during the lunar solar eclipse 2 weeks ago, it was fairly close, wasn't it, Graham?
Right. There is actually a very interesting balance between these two eclipses that we've had. We talked a bit before about the alignment, that to actually have a total lunar eclipse followed by an annular solar eclipse, the alignment is only just good enough for each event. So 2 weeks ago, it was a very quick, very short total lunar eclipse. Today, it's an annular eclipse where the shadow is just skimming across the Arctic region of the Earth. But yeah, the other interesting balance between these two eclipses is, as you say, Anna, the distance to the moon. So 2 weeks ago, it was a total lunar eclipse. It was also a supermoon because the moon was particularly close to the Earth 2 weeks ago. Here we are. 2 weeks later, we've gone from the full moon of the lunar eclipse to the new moon of the solar eclipse, and the distance to the moon has also changed. And for this eclipse, the moon is further away than usual. And that's why this is an annular eclipse. That's why the moon is not big enough today to completely cover the face of the sun. And I think we have a little graphic
Yeah.
that we can. Okay, well we've got one here down in the right down in the bottom left corner. This shows how the distance of the moon changes. So at its closest, to have a supermoon, the moon has to be within 360,000 kilometers of the Earth. Anything closer than that, and we call that a supermoon. Anything more than 405,000 kilometers, then the moon is smaller in the sky. We call that a micromoon. Today, we're not quite at a micromoon. Today, the moon is just a tiny bit less than 405,000 kilometers away. So technically, it's not a micromoon by this definition, but the moon is smaller than usual. And that's why we're having an annular eclipse rather than a total solar eclipse today.
And they have names too, and we always get them mixed up. It's apogee and perigee, and apo. You taught me apo is 3 letters, so apo are 3 letters in far. So apogee means the moon is far away, and peri means near. 4 letters, perigee, near. So that's my quick brain-boggling way to remember the difference between supermoon and micromoon. So at the moment, the moon is, thank you. So the moon at the moment is near apogee, right? Great.
At the moment, it's near apogee, right? Because, and in fact, here we have a little diagram now in the top right-hand corner that can help us with this. When we're talking about the moon being a bit nearer sometimes and a bit farther away at other times, it's because the moon's orbit is not a perfect circle. It is slightly oval shaped or slightly elliptical. So today, yes, the moon is far, and FAR, 3 letters, that gives us apo for apogee. The moon is at its furthest point from the Earth. 2 weeks ago, for our lunar eclipse, the moon was there in the other half of its orbit, and then it was at its closest point to the Earth, and near, as you say, Anna, 4 letters, NEAR, gives us perigee, to describe the moon's closest point. Yeah, that diagram in the top right-hand corner, that explains why 2 weeks ago it was a supermoon lunar eclipse, and also why today, 2 weeks later, it is an annular solar eclipse.
Yeah, and we're going to be shifting our focus now to Northern Europe. The eclipse is winding down, except for Nuvik. They still have their highlight there, but it looked quite cloudy in Nuvik. So I hope they get a little bit of break in the clouds there to see and their max. What did you say? 80% there in Nuvik.
In Nuvik, they are getting 77% partial eclipse there. Yes.
Yeah. So we're fingers crossed for them to get a little bit of a break in the clouds. But we're shifting towards Northern Europe. We're looking at images here from Opbakka, outside of Oslo, Norway, and there's just a little bit of the moon left there over the sun in Sudbury, Canada. And hopefully we'll have some images from the UK, maybe another feed from Northern Norway. We're waiting on that as well. So don't go away. It's still happening. Go and check timeanddate.live. There's lots and lots of interesting posts in our live news feed there. There's images from people sharing their images on Twitter and other social media. So go and have a look, and we'll see you back here soon. And we've got some great pictures coming in here now from the crowd in Inuvik in Canada. Looking at the time, help me out here, Graham. Where are they when it comes to annularity?
So for the maximum eclipse in Inuvik, that is really round about now. 1042 was their maximum of 77%. So yeah, they're round about maximum now. It looked like there was a great crowd of people out there. It also looked like they were struggling with clouds there as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
This is all happening really in the very early hours of the morning for them. It's up above the Arctic Circle. It's the land of the midnight sun. The local time there is 4:48 a.m. So everybody got up really in the middle of the night, except it wasn't really the night because of the midnight sun. But certainly in the small hours of the morning, everybody got up. And it looked like a wonderful crowd there, but I'm afraid it looks like the clouds haven't done their part in Inuvik.
Yeah, but if they've seen anything, let's hope they're not too tired to use filters, eclipse glasses, and be safe. We keep repeating and reminding people to stay safe. We do have a little version that we call do, make, don't, which is do, be safe, use eclipse glasses, use filters, put filters on your binoculars, on your telescope. If not, you can make a pinhole projector. Graham, bring up your trusty props. We've got some props going on there. He's got a colander and what is that? Slotted spoon? Is that what we call it? Yep. Almost anything with the hole in it can be used to project the sun onto a piece of paper, something lighter colored, and you can see little crescent shapes there. It's really cool. And don't put on your sunglasses and look straight at the sun. It really can damage your retina. You can go blind. It sounds very dramatic because it is, isn't it, Graham?
Yes, it is. This is a hugely serious message. Right now,